We simply like to say that we're a company that's upcycling waste, and most of these are natural fibers like straw, wool, even cow dung. We look at them as a resource, and then we find a way of engineering them using hot press or a lot of these mechanical processes and machines into creating an engineered product that can take care of the wear and tear. So right now, what we have engineered is a termite moisture resistant product. We consider it the most durable product in India for interiors. It goes into a building to make the walls, doors, ceilings, and soundproofing, which is a value-added application. So in last 5 years, in terms of numbers, we have sold about 1 million square feet of these in India.
Wow.
And another 200,000 square feet outside India in Europe, Italy, in Singapore. Our vision was that there's no Indian company yet. So we're like, for India, we need to create a product that is available locally. After China, India is or can be a mass producer. So if you can manufacture at scale, if you can manufacture at an affordable price, there's a huge mature demand outside India for sustainable products. So me and my mother are the two directors in the company. When I started, we had a paid-up capital of 10 lakhs, which was me, my mother, and all other women in my family. So I went out from my grandmother to my aunts, to my sister, and I told everybody I'm starting something, and I want 10 of you. So 10 women in my family, both sides, gave a 50,000 rupees check. That
Wow.
together created the 10 lakhs. So they were the initial primary shareholders.
This is fascinating. Huh?
And yeah, my sisters and my mothers are shareholders in the company. So day one, it was 10 women on the cap table. Today also, it's still more of them, and then just, 3 external shareholders.
Welcome to Office Tales and People podcast. Today in Changemaker series, we have someone very young from Indian startup ecosystem, Shriti Pandey. Shriti is an entrepreneur who doesn't celebrate liability. She believes in profitability and impacting lives in a very positive way. Shriti has been running Structure. Let me break that down for you. Structure. So straw is something that she's been building a product with, and she's structuring it into panels, something that I would like to show you all. So these panels are very amazing to use in offices, making soundproof rooms, and so many other things that we learn from her. But what is very exciting about her journey is that she's young. She also was living an American dream. And from there, she came back to India, did her fellowship, and converted that entire experience into a startup that picks up straw from the rural India and converts it into marketable product. So welcome, Shriti, on Office Tales and People podcast, Changemaker series.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I am really excited to talk to you about your entire entrepreneurial journey. So let's start. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready to be grilled?
Yes.
Okay. My first question, that I know that you were in New York and you were working there, you studied there, you're engineering. What brought you back to India?
I think it was very personal and selfish, that I really felt that the life that I had there was not something that I felt I could continue living for a very long future. So I was just getting very sort of desperate to see a switch or see a change. And an opportunity through a friend told me that I could take a gap year, in a sense, and come back to India, do a fellowship, and figure out what I want to do next, which is going to be long term. So, unlike a lot of us in my generation, I wanted to do something which I felt I could do consistently for a decade or two. And I felt what I was doing in New York was not the same.
So tell us about your fellowship a little bit.
So the fellowship was very interesting. It was almost like, you're in an adventure reality show where we were sent to a village, about 22 of us, in the age of 20 to 29. Most of us were in our mid-20s. And you live a whole year, 13 months exact, with communities in a village. Most of these villages are in central India, northeast, Uttarakhand, so not even the mainstream states. And then you figure out what to do with the community and then do that for the entire year. There's no deliverables. The only deliverable is that you should connect with the community and come out learning. And obviously, for most of us, there was far more of learning at our end than, we could give to the community. So that was like the gist of doing. And the idea behind the fellowship is that if young people are given an opportunity to actually be exposed to certain parts of India, they might actually feel interested and nudged to get into impact and development sector.
So, what is this fellowship called? Tell us a little bit
So
about
it's
that.
called State Bank of India Foundation is the one that runs it, and it's called Youth for India. They started out around 2010, 2011, and I was in the third or the fourth batch of them being part of it.
So, you're saying this fellowship gave you an access to this community, and you lived in that rural area for 13 months. What happened in 13 months?
I think in 13 months, I first went to a process of unlearning everything that I had learned till then, and then relearning a lot of, skills which are very, I would say, basic. You realize that in the rural economy, the currency is trust, it is not actual money. So you really have to build trust, which is very useful today when you're running a business, because you can't run businesses. You need trust with your vendors, your customers, your suppliers. So I learned a lot of those ground skills that you can't learn in theory. And at the same time, I also learned how to build partnerships with people with whom you might not have anything in common on the surface, but then you do have something very fundamentally in common, that everyone wants to grow. And if you can find a way and sort of create a situation where people feel that they can grow together, like there's a model where everyone benefits, then that is sustainable. So I think I learned that, at how communities, how women come together and work in like collective farming and collective animal husbandry projects, where it's not like single, that I should make more money than another woman. If like we do it together, the power of the collective is more than an individual. And that really helped me, because so much of our work at Structure is building upon those partnerships. Like the product is a culmination of those partnerships, it's not the other way around.
Right. So, what I know of your startup is that it picks up straw and converts it into panels that people can use in building their offices, schools. A lot of different kind of institutions are using it. Tell me a little bit about what kind of panels are these? How are you engineering them? In what ways that it's good for construction? And what kind of companies are using these panels?
So we simply like to say that we're a company that's upcycling waste. So anything that's seen as unwanted or a residue fiber or raw material, and most of these are natural fibers like straw, wool, even cow dung. That's something new we are looking at now. So all of these natural fibers and materials, we look at them as a resource, and then we find a way of engineering them using hot press or a lot of these mechanical processes and machines into creating an engineered product that can take care of the wear and tear. So if it's an indoor product, which is the current product we have, then it has to deal with the humidity inside or fire hazards. If it's an external facade product, then water and sunlight. So right now what we have engineered is a termite moisture resistant product that can take a certain amount of load, far more than your MDFs, and equivalent to your plywoods, which is behaviorally considered the most durable product in India for interiors. So we've created a product that is at par to ply in use. It goes into a building to make the walls, doors, ceilings, and soundproofing, which is a value-added application. And then we sell them through the same traditional distribution models that already exist. So the first 2 years went into creating a product, and then the last 5 years is to like, how do you then get this new product into the mainstream distribution so that it gets to the mainstream customers.
And how competitive are you in terms of your pricing?
We are at par in price to plywood. So today you might have to spend the same or little less to get these panels. They're easily available in all tier 1 cities. So we're now in the next phase, want to get into even other cities that are there in India.
So is your product getting accepted? Is it commercially viable?
So in last 5 years, in terms of numbers, we have sold about 1 million square feet of these.
Wow.
In India, and another 200,000 square feet outside India, in Europe, Italy, and Singapore. And yeah, they are definitely getting acceptance in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, like starting from those cities by mainstream commercial architects who are building a school, a hospital, an office. So mainstream commercial mixed-use buildings are what these products are
So
going
if a small town, place wants your product, how will they be able to get something like this?
Right. So that is where then you try to keep penetrating the distribution,
Right.
which means that it's a two-step process. A, you have to keep meeting more and more architects each city-wise. So you expand your team, your sales team that goes and meets architects. They educate them about the product, tell them how good or better it is.
Right.
And then when they start recommending these products, then there are dealers, distributors in those cities
Right.
who hold inventory of traditional panels, who will then be like, oh, there's demand, then let me hold inventory.
Okay.
And then a regular carpenter or even someone who's, let's say, doing some interior in the home would then be able to source it from that dealer who they otherwise source, let's say, apply. So you have to build the demand through the architects, and then you have to make sure that there's enough supply there to meet the demand for the distributors to keep it.
So, Shriti, your startup, did you bootstrapped? Did you pick up any funding? How have you been running this entire show since 2018? And it's a very, I mean, what I have understood, it needs a lot of capital to make the panels and do the entire operations. How have you been running this?
So, to make sure that it doesn't need a lot of capital, we have always day one had an approach to have a decentralized outsource model to create the supply, which is manufacture the panels, and then have a lean team that keeps building the demand. And right now, we are also now creating network of partners who are building demand for us, and who are these people who are already selling complementary building materials.
Right.
So they're not on our payroll. And in terms of funding, so when the company started in, so me and my mother are the two directors in the company. When I started, we had a paid up capital of 10 lakhs, which was me, my mother, and all other women in my family. So I went out from my grandmother to my aunts to my sister, and I told everybody I'm starting something. And I want 10 of you. So 10 women in my family, both sides, gave a 50,000 rupees check. That
Wow.
together created the 10 lakhs. So they were the initial primary shareholders.
This is fascinating, huh?
And that what started, so 10 lakh is what started structure. And then after 2 years, when we had a product ready, in between we did get a lot of grants to help do the product development. And when we were ready to commercially be in the market, we felt we do need a little bit extra capital to be present. And that's where we raised one round of funding, which was around 2.5 cr. And after that, we have not raised. And we've gone back to the bootstrap model of being unit economics profitable month on month. And yeah, those women are like my sisters and my mothers are shareholders in the company. So day one, it was 10 women on the cap table. Today also, it's still more of them, and then just, three external shareholders.
So you are not going to raise.
If you don't have to, yes, our idea is that you only need money now. Like if you ever raise, it should only be that the growth cannot come without the capital, and not the capital that is already there in the business to put back. So
Right.
if we ever need more than that, we might do. But other than that, to sustain ourselves, to sustain the team, to even grow the team organically, no, we don't need capital in that sense.
So I also heard from you when you said that you are coming from that background where you don't celebrate liability and you want to have a profitable business and your P&Ls should be in green and not in red. Where is this thought coming from, and what makes that thought to be your prime when it comes to running the show as an entrepreneur in India?
So I think it's one personal, another what I've seen a lot of companies that are in building and construction do. So one is personal. On my dad's side of the family, a lot of people are in business, and as traditional business people who are either traders or manufacturers, you always at the end of the day want to make some money and then put that money back into the organization. And if you have a profitable business, then debt is accessible, which I think is a good thing. Like, you raise debt from the banks and other organization. So that was a personal experience of seeing what people do. And second was that if you look at a lot of mainstream building materials company, they're all essentially either a public listed company or they're private companies, and all of their balance sheets is profitable. So with building material, which is a hardware business, you're manufacturing something that then your cost. You're not going to ever, no one's selling any building material at a loss, even after having layers of distribution.
Right.
So when you're making something at the end of the day of selling and at scale, like that's just, logic that if you're doing it at scale, there'll be money at the end of the day. They'll still be there as capital.
Right.
So I just think that, like, I don't have an example of a building material company that's in loss or needs to raise because, they're burning. They might be raising for growth, but any successful building material company is also profitable.
So, while you're saying this, the one thought coming to my mind is that what is the horizon that you have as the founder of the company? How far you want to go with the company in terms of its expansion and its impact?
So in terms of expansion, so the first 4 years of commercially being present, we were only there in India. But day one, we knew that we wanted this product to be present as much as possible across the globe. So our vision was that there's no Indian company yet. So if you look at building material, especially what goes inside a building, not external, whenever there's a premium school, office, hotel in India, if you look at the materials that are spec'd, 80% of them are imported in India. These are either an American or an European brand. So good architects are using products that are coming from outside India. And the most common understanding of sustainability is what's closer is more sustainable, right? The footprint would be less. So we're like, A, for India, we need to create a product that is available locally. So that by any, logic or understanding will be more sustainable. And second was that if there's no such brand of Indian origin, then there's a gap as well in the market. So yes, we really want to like a gap that I think people don't even care about. But we think that there's a lot of opportunity for an Indian brand to be globally present that is being used by furniture manufacturers in Italy or architects sitting in Netherlands. So in just last 1 year, we have supplied a product for trials and pilots across 6 different countries in Europe. Singapore as well as UK. We're in talks with someone at the west in the West Coast in US as well. So I see a huge mature demand for sustainable products, and because after China, India is or can be a mass producer. So if you can manufacture at scale, if you can manufacture at an affordable price, there's a huge mature demand outside India for sustainable product, and there's no other like brand out there yet doing that. So I think in next 5 years, we definitely want to be present across Europe.
So, Shriti, you know that I come from building companies' culture background. And my obvious question is that you are now expanding and your team is increasing by the day. Are you investing in building company culture? And if you are, what is your pathway to that?
So obviously, I didn't had any academic experience of building culture. I didn't know I would even start a company. So in 2021, after we raised our first round of investment, I did feel that the first thing you do when you raise money is you expand your team. You get more people to join you. I realized that I have to learn the basics of how do you engage and build like a universal language and culture. So I actually ended up doing certain fellowships, which I thought would be a way for me to actually understand what culture is. So I've done fellowships like Acumen and Aspen, where I first understood what leadership means, and then understand what my like value system should be as a leader, and then see if that could be across everyone in the team. So I think for me, when it comes to culture, for us at Structure, it's what we've realized is that transparency is something that's not common in construction. Construction is considered as the most shady business out there. People don't know what's happening. They always feel that the contractor or the vendor is there to make money out of them. So we're like, let's build a company that's inside also transparent. So within the team, from my level to the person who's a carpenter, we're very transparent in sharing information, financial, non-financial, about all our plans, and the same to the external. So like for example, test reports. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest European companies, while they have all the compliances, they never put it on their websites. We from day one have put all our test certificates on our website. So we're like, if we have done them, they should be accessible to people to
Absolutely.
have them. So I think one, that is very important for us, like
Transparency.
being a very honest, transparent company. If you make a mistake, if the product has manufacturing defect, we're like, no questions asked, we'll replace it, even as a young company. And second would be really understanding diversity. When I say understanding, I don't mean the traditional like diversity what people think of. It's more because construction is a business where people of different class work together to put a building together, from the blue collar workers to architects who are like academic people, and then you have contractors who are business people who might not be as educated as architects, but they were the one who are bringing the money.
Right.
But then the blue collar workers are doing the actual work. So when all these three have to come together, you have to really understand how to appreciate diversity and be able to talk to each one of them, because the language you need to talk to a contractor, to an architect, and to a carpenter is completely different.
So, can you define diversity in your perception?
So, we first thing we have everybody of all of these stakeholders within our company. So one is like the architect in our team or the business development person should know how to talk to an architect. So our first thing is, day one, you don't go and sell to an architect who is a salesperson. You're like, you need to be able to explain to a carpenter what we are doing. And if a carpenter doesn't understand or finds it complicated, then
So it's the skill diversity.
yes.
that you were first talking
Yes.
about.
So if you can't explain to a carpenter as a educated salesperson from an MBA background that why this product should be used and he or she is not convinced, then you don't know how to talk about the product.
Exactly. What is clear to me is that you're understanding diversity how it should be understood, which is from multiple aspects of perception, the skill, or the capacity.
Yes.
So all of these diversities you are accounting for.
Yes.
Happy to hear that. But when it comes to transparency, of course, you're building a very transparent company. But when it comes to people and bringing more people into your team, what kind of values do you look for when you hire?
The one thing that really matters to us is we really value people who understand the difference between depth and scale and should value depth over scale. So I think a lot of startups, especially this word startup, right? The whole idea of celebrating startups is celebrating scale. And I think a lot of ethos of building a profitable business is building depth. So I think we really value people, whether they're in the sales team or the operation team, who understand depth, which means that it will take time. Sometimes you might have to take two steps back in terms of not having a top line growing every year, might have it going down a year, but still understanding why that is happening because you're building some processes and you want to pivot and then go back to growing. So I think that depth and scale is something that we really like to understand, that if those people have worked in other organizations, what kind of organizations were they. So we necessarily don't like to hire people who have just been in very high growth making companies, but more in traditional businesses, or people who have even ventured and tried their own thing, shut it down for some reason, doesn't matter, but then understand ownership and understand that they shut it down because the unit economics didn't work.
You're right.
So then if you're building a company that values unit economics, have aligned values there.
So, Shriti, you are very young. This particular era that we are sitting in, people of your age usually are rushing to build company which can be scaled and raise, come out with an IPO and maybe exit. You are not seeming to be in that race. Are you not getting attracted to something like that?
So I think when you look at India at a macro level, majority of businesses are family-run businesses. They are businesses that have existed for generations, and people don't start them to exit them. So I think, again, from my personal experience, I never wanted to start structure to exit it in 8 years or 10 years. It's already been 8 years now, and I would be very happy to be running it like operationally for another 10 years, and then hopefully maybe have someone who's better than me to run it. But we really never started it to exit it. So I think when you don't start with an exit strategy, you're really building it every day for it to exist and sustain itself. So yes, I'm not in that race or in that
And before I lose this thought, on this particular point, do you have something to share with the rest of the young Indians who are building and building companies that are maybe very good in terms of idea and scale, but may not be impacting in the long run? Do you have something to share with them or a message for them?
I think people often just understand impact the understanding of impact is very complicated and subjective, but I think it's very simple. At the end of the day, impact can be social, can be environmental, as long as whatever you're doing to grow the business is not hurting. Like for us, it's very simple that as long as, like, if we have to every day keep selling more panels, every square feet of that panel should add to the livelihood of the people we buy raw materials from, which is farmers, and should not hurt the ecology and the environment that it is being built around, which is the climate or our planet. So as long as we know that those things are like proportional in the same way, then you don't have to daily. I think you have to think a lot about impact when it is not embedded in the model already. When your model is impact in itself, then daily you can just think about scale, you can think about sales, and you don't have to be like, oh, are we making impact? We know every minute when it is getting sold there is some impact. So I think it's just like day one, again, how you think about the business is where impact. It's like at a design level it should be in it, like how people think about plastics, right? If you can design a package day one in a way where it's not going to go into a waste cycle, then you don't have to daily worry, oh, how many packets am I putting out in the world.
Right, right.
So I think just at, like, again, which will only happen when you're intentional at starting. You're not very desperate to just grow.
Right.
So the first few years, if you just spend a lot of time in building the ground foundation right, then like you can always start to run whenever you want.
So, Shriti, you are a civil engineer, and what I remember you telling me is that you never took engineering to be software engineering, and for you, engineering was very touch and feel. Where is this thought coming from, and why do you think like that?
So I think that comes from my childhood. So we're triplets. I have a brother and a sister. I used to spend a lot of time playing with my brother with like a lot of like cars and cricket. So it was like always a lot of my engagement was physical with things. Also like born in 90s, so we never had access to that much computers and like video games. So it was everything was very physical for me. And I always loved buildings when we would travel as kid. So every year we would travel a state in the summer vacation with our family, and to me just seeing buildings which had scale and certain infrastructure was very engaging. And then machines, again because of scale, I think how big machines and bridges could be, that really gave me a lot of excitement. I would watch those shows on Discovery and Geographic. So my understanding of engineering was these structures that get built in machines like planes. So yes, to me engineering was always hardware.
So, what do you call computer engineering?
So in my head, it's like, yes, that's also a form of engineering, which is very software. And to me, electrical, mechanical, civil, these three are like the basics. So I'm like, anything is built upon these three. Like you can build a software, but if it has to be run on a computer, then the computer is the hardware. So I've always been inclined to the hardware part of engineering, then the software. And yes, all of structure is very hardware.
And you actually were interested in very hardcore engineering, which is very touch and feel. So while studying, you never faced that, oh, you're a girl and girls are not inclined towards very hardware kind of engineering, and you were able to grasp it as much as any other boys in the class, or were you facing any kind of discrimination in the class?
No, I think there was always a level of intrigue, not discrimination, because when, like if a professor enters a class, and this is not just in India. I remember when I was in the US, our masters MSc class, there were 35 of us in the class, and that was like eight women and rest were men, even there. So yes, I think people actually get intrigued that okay, why is this woman interested in construction or structural engineering? Like my closest friend in the US is this girl from Italy who did her MTech in structural engineering, and me and her would love just talking about bridges. And I think that intrigued the professors and not discriminate. So it's like you're more interested to understand why they are passionate about this, and then if they are passionate, you reciprocate by teaching. So I think I've never felt discriminated. My interest has always been reciprocated by professors, and like, oh, she really wants to study this or wants to understand. So let's, give her that knowledge.
So, if you were to tell women in very hardcore engineering fields, what is that one message that you have for them?
So I've seen two kind of women in hardcore engineering. A minority which is there out of choice, and the majority that is there because they did not get the software engineering course. So I would just always say, like, when you're choosing to do, let's say, a harder discipline, only do it if it's out of choice. Don't do it because you have to. So like, I think you rather not become an engineer if you're not getting the subject that you want. I've never understood that, oh, let's just take any course and doesn't matter. So I think, yeah, if you're taking mechanical civil, be really interested in it, because then you will excel in it.
But this is applicable to both men and women.
Yes, everybody.
Right.
Like, yeah, like do it out of choice, because I think when you're not doing it out of choice, then those hardware courses sometimes are far more harder. There's a lot more rigor required in studies than computers, and then you will feel frustrated.
So, thank you, Shriti, for coming on Office Tales and People podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
So, this was Shriti Pandey on Changemaker series at Office Tales and People podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. I would also request all of you to forward this episode to all the architects so that we can take this product to the rest part of the India and not just in the metros. Don't forget to subscribe Office Tales and People podcast for more stories.